thousands of years, we have been at war. But before, we were enemies. We were like brothers. You ready?
Always ready. Let's punch in. Hey, watch where you're going!
What did you say?
It's not like he can transform.
Hey, Darkwing!
Oh.
My finger can transform. Guess which one?
Allow me.
I appreciate you having my back.
No matter what.
What is that?
Sending location coordinates.
We're under attack!
It's an SOS message from the surface.
Fantastic.
It's time to show them we are more than meets the eye.
A cave with teeth. Nothing scary about that. Holy Primus.
I see strength in you. Take these and access your full potential.
He can transform now!
How do we use these things?
Come on!
How you choose to use this power is up to you. We roll out.
What?
Louder.
Transform and roll out!
I want to help build a better world.
Like you said, we can be so much more.
Maybe it's just me, but he's different.
Yeah, no, I picked up on that.
I picked up on that too.
What happened to my best friend?
Burn it down! All of it!
We have to stop him.
We could have built the future together.
I don't think so.
Decepticons! Rise up! Incoming!
Come on! Awesome! That's what I'm talking about.
Now is the time for us to stand up. Together. As one.
Look, that's Starscream, and you're Shockwave and Soundwave. Enough. Gosh, raise your hand if Wave is in your name. There's a lot of Wave.
Hello and welcome to the periodic table of awesome. Now, regular viewers will probably be looking around the stream and going, "Hang on, these are not the faces that I'm used to seeing." But we are joined tonight by two very, very special guests. Now, Jason, what's your official title when it comes to the Transformers Collectors Club of Australia?
I don't know. I'm one of the Facebook group admins, and I'm just one of the more public figures in management of the club and the group. So I don't know. Let's just go with like busybody. How's that?
Okay, that's a really official title.
Yeah.
Jason, the busybody of the Transformers Collectors Club of Australia, and Lisamaree. Hey, how are you?
Hey, I'm good.
Now, what are you a part of the TCCA? Are you also a part of other Transformers groups?
I am. So I am definitely a part of the TCCA and absolutely love it. And also part of Ozformers, which is another Transformers group in Australia. So I just love all the communities. They're great group of people out there.
Yes, absolutely. And the chat is giving you a lot of love and saying welcome to you guys. So thank you so much for joining us. I will say I felt like I was perhaps not a big enough star at one point. So for the premiere screening of this, which thank you, Rob. Thank you for, of course, hello me. Yes. So for the premiere screening of this, Jason was my +1. He was very, very beautiful. Thank you, Chris. But yeah, I realized walking down what color was the carpet? Help me.
It was a purple red carpet. And also I would also just love to say thank you once again for the +1 invite. We had an amazing night. We got to goof around on the purple carpet, and we probably took photographs that we shouldn't have with the character statues that they had at the premiere. I noticed that they packed them away and they were looking at us and a bit funny.
They did give us a very side eye the day afterwards.
Yeah.
It's funny. We were walking past just as they were pulling Elita One's head off. It was a terrifying moment. We were like, "Oh God!"
I think I made the comment that it's the second time in Transformers media in the last couple of years that they've bridged Elita One. But yes,
oh dear. Yes, but and Karina said that she saw us in amongst all of the Paramount AU Instagram stuff. Okay, so the reason I was bringing this up is because I realized that I was actually with Royalty, the purple for Royalty, because a bunch of the Transformers Collectors Club were there waiting to get their stuff signed, and they seemed just as excited to see Jason as they were to see Chris Hemsworth.
I distinctly recall that you had adoring public out on the outside.
One adoring public, singular. But I'll take it. I'll take what I can get.
It is actually kind of funny, right? Like we should probably actually talk about the experience of seeing Transformers 1 just as much as we should talk about actually what we thought of the movie as well. And like the premiere night was pretty amazing. We did get to see and meet but not touch Chris Hemsworth.
Well, that's okay. As Rob has said, you are the fourth Hemsworth brother, so it's okay.
I don't know what that means, but I'll take it.
There are many Hemsworths. It's okay.
Yeah, right. I'm not the one who's taking over The Witcher, right?
You could be any Hemsworth you want to be, my friend.
Okay.
But yes, it was a lovely night. I would love to know a little bit about you guys, just in terms of your history with Transformers, because I know that as I look around just off screen, my desk is currently covered in Transformers. There's Transformers.
As it should be too.
Everybody has their desk formers. There we go.
Absolutely.
But tell me a bit about when you got started into the whole Transformers collecting, and I'm going to start with you, Lisa.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a late bloomer in the collecting, so I actually didn't start until probably around 2010, 11.
Oh, wow.
Maybe. But I am one of those kids that grew up in the 70s and 80s and what I call the golden age of cartoons, basically. So Transformers being my absolute favorite, and Optimus Prime being my absolute favorite Transformer, in case you guys couldn't.
So to anyone who's just listening to the audio version, Lisamaree has an awful lot of Optimi. What's the plural of Optimuses?
I think you mean an amazing lot of Optimuses.
This is just one small corner of my room, but I do have a bad habit of collecting Optimus Primes. And look, I
because there's a lot of them.
Yes, and I will never be able to collect them all, and I've come to that realization. But I do have a bias to the G1-esque Optimus Primes.
Right.
So, but look, I have loved collecting. I lived in Hong Kong for 10 years, and so that was a really great opportunity to get a lot of Transformers that you don't necessarily get easily here. Moving back here was a real culture shock for me because not being able to have the freedom to get all of the Transformers that I used to be able to get. Lesson learned, but
you just should have stayed in Hong Kong.
Look, I'm lucky that, there are people like Jason out there who've been able to help me source, my figures and get them from great places for the right prices when they're not available here and things like that. So, I've been an active member of various Transformers groups, both in Hong Kong and here in Australia.
That's cool.
For many years now. And there aren't many of us females out there who do collect, but Transformers is one of those amazing things that it's for everyone. Yeah. So and I think these days there's a lot more freedom for people to be able to have the choice to enjoy Transformers. That unfortunately, when I grew up, it was a boy's toy, and my parents wouldn't let me have Optimus Prime no matter how much I begged.
Oh no!
So that's probably part of the reason why I started collecting, is because there happened to be a there happened to be a massive pile of Optimus Prime's MP10s at Toys R Us in Jim Joy in Hong Kong. And I walked past it and went, oh my God, I always wanted one of those. And my husband then surprised me for my birthday and has regretted it ever since.
That's amazing. Oh, that's actually lovely. I love that your husband was the one who's like, you know what? Feed the beast here. I appreciate that. Jason, tell me a bit about your, I love it. I do. Tell me a bit about your Transformers journey before we get into the talk about the film.
Yeah. Let's see. So look, I think I have a fairly common Transformers journey for especially Australian fans of a certain age like myself, which is that we got into the toys when we were kids, and then we lapsed a little bit, and then the 90s came in, and then Transformers suddenly transformed into beasts, and we sort of look, I will freely admit that I'm not into beast formers. I'm very happy that people are, and I don't want to detract from Beast Wars or anything for people who do love it. It's not my cup of tea, but that's fine. There's plenty of stuff for me to collect, and everyone's fine. I lapsed a bit. I got back into collecting early 2000s or so when Vinyl Tech rolled along, and so I also had some ties to, weirdly enough, Hong Kong and Singapore. My father lived in Hong Kong at the sort of the turn of the century, and so I would go up to Hong Kong on school holidays and the like, and I would look around and I'd see what new Vinyl Tech figures were out, and that sort of turned into checking out what new Masterpiece figures had come out as well. And then I sort of lapsed again for a little while, and then at one of my current job, in fact, which I've been in my current job for a very long time, I suddenly started once I moved to Sydney. I suddenly started. Actually, no, you know what? It was before I moved to Sydney. I actually lived in Singapore for a couple of years around 2010, and that was when I realized that there are places in Singapore that, like, there was an old flea market at a shopping center called China Square Central, and you could go along there every Sunday and find the absolute latest Transformers at really, really good prices. And so that was around the time that Transformers Animated was on the air, and so I had a very lovely collection of Transformers Animated figures. They're in a box somewhere around here, as they shipped back from Singapore, and I shipped things back from Singapore, and then I moved to Sydney, and I've been in Sydney for a long time since then. I've only recently moved back to Melbourne, and so most of the time that I was in Sydney, I was becoming more active in Transformers and the Transformers community, and so I did not start TCCA. I do want to point out the gentleman who started.
That's good
TCCA.
to know. I didn't know that.
He's a lovely gentleman named Brad Mole. Started TCCA and was gracious enough to let me sort of join in and take on podcasting duties within the group, and sort of I have this tendency where whenever I join groups, I tend to end up running them. So I very quickly became an admin in TCCA, and sort of the things have sort of snowballed from there.
Right.
I spent a while around the time of the pandemic, sort of importing some figures that were hard to get for people, as Lisa mentioned earlier, and so a lot of people are very familiar with me because I've sold them toys.
Yes, you are the dealer of plastic crack. That is how I know of you.
I am. That's correct.
And
he is J-Mart.
I have actually developed a reputation internationally of being someone who can find things.
Right.
I've hooked up Sixo with a couple of things, and some people in the UK. I've facilitated some orders to ship from one of the stores that Lisa and I used to shop at in Hong Kong. Shipped some stuff over to the UK that didn't get released there and stuff. So I'm going to stop eventually.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, you're going to stop right now because I want to talk about the movie.
Well, I go to a convention every year in the UK called TPToA,
Nice.
which is amazing. And so yeah, people there are like, let me buy you a beer because you managed to get Red Alert shipped over to us a couple of years ago and stuff. So it's a lovely position to be in. And yeah, it's nice to be known. Someone from Hasbro also mentioned J-Mart to me once, and I thought, oh dear.
Yeah, that's a scary one. They know about me. The eye of Sauron is upon you. So, okay, we've got some pretty impressive Transformers cred here. We've got the fact that you've both spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia and apparently buying cool toys just makes me jealous. My history of Transformers is real simple. Somewhere about 1984, I started watching a cartoon on Saturday mornings and it blew my mind. And I'm not sure whether it was before that or after that my friend got Optimus Prime. And I wanted it so badly I could taste it. And I said to my parents, please, Mom, Dad, I want Optimus Prime. And I got a beautiful Starscream.
I mean, Starscream is
and a Megatron.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're the bad guys. Why did you give me the bad guys? And then I went, that guy's a gun. That's cool. Like, now I'm not a particularly big gun fan, but at the time,
he will never be a gun ever again. It was a product of the 80s. Megatron now is a tank.
Yep, and will forever be a tank. Mm-hmm. And I'm okay with that. So, okay, we talked a lot about the toys. We talked about our history. I'd love to know, just before we get into the review of this film, what have you thought about the other Transformers films that have gone before this? And I mean, we can start with Transformers 1986. Let's just a two-word response to the 86 Transformers film.
Oh.
Childhood trauma.
Excellent. Yes,
that's not quite. It's not quite so that bad, right? Like it did traumatize a generation of us as they killed Optimus Prime wholesale and Megatron as well. But the 86 movie is really interesting because it completely disconnects from the rest of the series, and season 3 of the cartoon that followed it is a completely different beast. It goes off world. There's aliens. The previous couple of seasons did not do this, or they're not very much. Like they'd go to Cybertron. But yeah, like the 86 movie like set Transformers off in a completely different direction.
It did. Then what about you, Lisa? Were you?
I was going to say it was awesome and traumatic at the same time because there are some incredibly iconic, beautiful animations. The music is just wicked to this day. My son absolutely loves that movie and will. I don't know whether he purposely likes to watch it because it traumatizes me still, or he just absolutely loves that movie, even more so than the G1 cartoons. He's a Transformers Prime era child, but that's his favorite movie.
I love this.
Can I ask a question about the music?
Mm-hmm.
Are you of the opinion that Dare or The Touch is the better song?
Oh, that's really hard.
So we're asking the hard questions on the period.
Yeah, I know. We're really right at the heart of this. Which Stan Bush power ballad is the most powerful of the two?
Do we really have to choose?
Yeah.
Yes. The Transformers are literally at war. Pick a side.
Oh, hang on. Are you trying to say which one's the Decepticon here? Is Dare the Decepticons, or is personally, I'm all about The Touch, but I won't say that if you ask me in a court of law.
I prefer Dare myself, but yeah.
I think I'd go for The Touch as well.
You kind of have to because of the connection to Optimus Prime, right?
It's just really, really iconic. So, yeah.
It's a tough one. It really is. And then we had a long break, and Well, basically until okay, some more love for Dare there. I think Dare is coming in hot. Then we get a very long break, and then we hit 2007. Now, I have quite strong opinions about these films.
Do you have strong opinions about films 2, 3, 4, and 5? And is it different to your opinion about film 1?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
I think Transformers, the 2007 film, is fine.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's fine. And it has some cool designs, and it's got some fun things that happen in it. But then they just kept making films where all of the things that weren't fine about the first film, they just kept on doubling down on them.
Look, I don't disagree.
Yeah. Well, what I'm going to say is that Transformers: The Last Night is definitely a film that was released.
Yes. On a scale of 1 to cinema, I'd say it's definitely a 1.
And I tell you, there's nothing like seeing Optimus Prime riding Grimlock down a street that's literally half a block from where I used to live.
Oh,
and
man.
Going like,
wow.
What?
That's cool.
Look,
well, it's not cool.
It's cool, but not cool. Yeah,
it's cool-ish. I think by the time you get to like movies 3, 4, and 5 of the Bay films, let's call them, I think by that time I've checked out of whether or not I'm actually enjoying the movie or not, and it's more, or whether I think it's good. Like there's a difference between enjoying the movie and thinking that the movie is good. I'm checked out of that, and I'm just like, I'm here for the plot and just see what they're going to do. And it's like, oh, Unicron's Earth. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool.
Let's see where they go with the next one. Oh, there isn't one. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Predicanga makes an interesting point. It became spectacle cinema. I'd say it became testicle cinema, but that's just.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah. God. By the end, like. The one good thing I can say about all of those films, 2, 3, 4, and 5, they gave us more toys.
Yeah, it's true. Look, the reason we're here now in 2024 with an animated Transformers film to watch is because of the path that those movies paved. And for better or for worse, like those movies, the Bay directed movies became sort of an array of diminishing returns. I think The Last Night struggled to make back its very, very large budget in its box office returns. And that led them to do Bumblebee. And Bumblebee had that 90 seconds at the start of it, which everyone was like, oh my God, it's the best Transformers animation ever. And that was the thing that everyone wanted to see a full movie of that stuff. And this is literally why we're here. That we went from the Bay films to Travis Knight's Bumblebee. We had the 90-second, which I love the fact that everyone thinks that was about 10 minutes, but it was 90 seconds, and people wanted that writ large on the big screen, and that is what we've got.
It is and it isn't. Like I think everybody desperately wanted that real high resolution, that look. And we've got something in between. We've got a full CGI animated film. Personally, I was a big fan of Bumblebee. Loved the hell out of that film. Thought it was fun. And those first 90 seconds or whatever it is were absolutely mint. Last year, we got Rise of the Beasts, and I felt like we'd kind of gone a little bit backwards towards the Bay side of things.
I think they tried to do too much with that one.
Yeah.
And I guess the challenge you've always got when it's set on Earth is it's more about the humans than it is actually about those Transformers and the character development, which is what makes Transformers 1 so exciting. Is it's set on Cybertron. There are no humans in this, so they can actually start doing some proper character building.
Isn't it a beautiful thing?
The one thing I do want to say about Rise of the Beast, since we've gone through the pantheon of Transformers films, and we're now at like one before the one we're here to talk about. Rise of the Beast had the most screen time for Transformers out of any of the live action films. And I believe they switched away from sort of getting ILM to do a lot of the visual effects, and that afforded them a lot more screen time for the Transformers themselves, sort of at the cost of them the effects not being quite so good. But I think they told the story that they wanted to tell there, and they laid the groundwork for some stuff that's still like we're gonna see sequels to Rise of the Beasts. And look, it was last year. It's fine. Like, there's going to be GI Joe stuff, whether or not we care about GI Joe. I personally could not give two hoots about GI Joe, but if they're going to integrate them from relatively the start of their franchise, then let's give them a chance and see what they do.
Absolutely. Okay. I think we've talked about the history enough. It's time for us to get into talking about Transformers 1. And as is traditional around here, I will be doing the synopsis. Now, usually regulars will know that I will do a dumb, stupid accent for this. So in keeping with that, I will be doing tonight's synopsis in the form of Optimus Prime. I hope you're okay with that. Please forgive my terrible.
Synopsis is the right of all sentient beings.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see, the regulars are saying it's shit accent time. Yeah. Transformers 1 is the untold origin story of Optimus Prime and Megatron. Later to be sworn enemies, but once close friends, Orion Pax and D-16. Working-class miners struggling to rise above their life of servitude. But that all changes when they find a map to a lost artifact called the Matrix of Leadership. These friends, brothers almost, are joined by B-127, or as we call him, Bumblebee, and Elita One, and they will all change the fate of Cybertron forever. There you go. That's... I'll just fade out the kind of shitty music that. And here's your little reminder. Yes, Optimus Prime Hemsworth.
I'm actually so distracted by just looking at the cartoon.
I know, right?
I know, right? Skylinks.
Yeah, everybody's
crazy
just like,
Leonard Nimoy.
Is Quinny talking? Who gives a shit? Anyway, like cartoon. Talk about the cartoon. Which, you know what? I'm okay with that. I think that's probably the more appropriate thing. Okay, I am going to remove it, though. Otherwise, we will just get distracted.
We will.
So, tell me what you thought of Transformers 1. We've got a brand new animated film starring, as we say, Chris Hemsworth, Brian Tyree Henry as Megatron or D-16, and a whole raft of other characters. So, who wants to go first? I open the floor to you. Who wants to talk?
I'm gonna cede the floor to Lisamaree.
Okay. I liked it. Look, it's not the animation that I would ultimately love, but as you said earlier, it's that halfway kind of mark. And I guess I kind of look at it like the Shrek movies, where it's got heaps in it for kids, but it's also got all those innuendo jokes in it that keep adults happy as well. So I'm quite okay with it as a movie. And look, quite frankly, anything that keeps people interested in Transformers or brings new kids and people into the Transformers fold is a good thing, because it means more toys for us.
Not for kids, no, us collectors.
But look, no. In all seriousness, it's a fun story. I think the animation is bright and clever. The music in it is nice. There's a lot of really cool Easter eggs and throwbacks, and so I enjoyed it. I've talked to friends who aren't Transformers fans who've seen it, and they've enjoyed it. I think that's a good sign.
That to me is the mark of something interesting about this film is that okay, how many times have you seen the film, Lisamaree?
I've only seen it once so far.
Okay, so I have seen it twice. And Jason?
I've seen it 3 times, and I'm going for a 4th on the weekend. We're making plans to see it in IMAX 3D on the weekend.
Nice.
Oh, that's where I'd like to see it for the second time.
Yeah, I'm actually thinking of going back for an IMAX 3D take. So Rob says that, you know, he enjoyed it, and there are moments where they were sitting on the edge of his seat.
Absolutely.
So the thing that I think is interesting about it is that it does have that crossover thing, that it's not just appealing to fans. When we first watched it at the fan screening, you know, people were hooting and hollering and screaming and you know, absolutely losing
it was such
their
a
shit.
fun time seeing it for the first time in a room that was packed to the rafters with Transformers fans. And I know several people who are watching the stream now were there in that fan screening that was put on for us. And thank you all for making that screening so awesome. It's been a different experience seeing it in groups of maybe non-fans since then, or you know, a little bit more muted crowds, more influencers, more media since then. But really enjoyed that experience. It was so good.
Well, the one that got me, and I agree, it is a different experience. And I was listening to it while we were at the premiere. I was listening to the crowd as much as anything, thinking, oh, they're not as pumped, they're not as excited or whatever. You know, when you know, somebody says a line or whatever, it doesn't get the big laugh. But afterwards, I walked outside, and there were a group of young kids who were just standing around, and they were like, "Oh, that was the best movie I've seen in ages." Like, and this is hardened Gen Y, you know, like, well, probably even younger than Gen Y, who are used to, you know, TikTok and short form content and everything. They were absolutely taken with it, which I really excited me.
I think that's what happens when you get a director like Cooley and put him on a property like Transformers, where, you know, they could have handed it to anyone, and they might have turned in a pretty average job. But Cooley has an amazing eye for animation and you know, even lining up shots and how you know, bounce light around scenes inside an animated frame. And I think the movement, the direction, and it's a well written movie. Like, the script is good. It gets genuine laughs from people. The fights are good. There's very little to actually ding the film on as a Transformers fan. So, you know, I think we all have this sort of innate recognition of Optimus Prime and Megatron, even if they're in slightly different forms over the years. But when we go to see a Transformers movie, we kind of know what we're going to get. Like, we expect to see Optimus Prime and Megatron, and we probably expect Bumblebee these days as well. And seeing these characters with new takes that are fully formed, well characterized, and really well voiced it's fantastic. So,
and in the case of B127, and voiced and voiced and voiced and voiced. And what I thoroughly enjoyed from that was finally having an explanation as to why somebody would rip out his voice box in other films. It was like, I'm actually on board with Blitzwing now. I'm like, yeah, no, fair enough. Totally reasonable call. Just take the voice box out. So, are we going to see Transformers 6? No.
That
will be the 5th sequel, and when you see it in New Zealand. But
yeah.
Yes.
Hey.
Yeah. Actually, one thing that really surprised me, like, after seeing the kids who were, like, really, you know, down for it and everything, so a little bit later on, we're going to be playing an interview that I did with the director Josh Cooley and Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, who is let's be honest, a controversial figure in amongst Transformers fans.
I'm actually just waiting for the chat room to burn up at the mention of his name, but it's been quiet so far.
It has been very quiet, and I'm slightly disappointed. I mean, if I say his name 3 more times, he will appear, and probably talk about his lawn or something. I don't know. Either that, he will appear and try to make everything canon. He'll just be like, you're canon. Everything is part of the one cohesive universe. But yeah, I was doing an interview, and an interview. Somebody else was getting ready to do an interview. Somebody from one of the big TV stations, like Channel 7, Angela, whatever her name is, the entertainment reporter for one of those morning shows. And she was sitting beside me, and she said, she leaned across and like, "What do you think of the film?" I said, I'm a big fan, so obviously I loved it. And she said, "You know what? I was really surprised at how much the emotion got to me."
Absolutely.
The relationship between Orion and D-16 is something that this does so well, and it builds it. And by the end of it, I was actually quite emotionally invested in where they were at. And apparently, so were people who, couldn't give a shit about Transformers.
Yeah. Look, I think you mentioned this to the gentleman in the interview as well, but there's a point in the movie where it just having done what it's going to do, and to be clear, like, this movie does a lot, like,
in a short space of time.
Yeah, you played the preview that actually gives sort of a good look at a lot of the stuff that happens in the movie, but even so, like, there's something notable that's not shown in that longer preview that we got at the start. There's a character missing, and so, like, when that character turns up, it's like, that's suspicious. But so much stuff happens over the course of 90 minutes that the characters are in a very different place at the end of the film than when they were at the start of the film. And then just at the end of it, it just throws you a little bone that back 90 minutes prior to, like, one of the first meetings of Orion and D-16, and it's like, pow, that just kicks you in the guts. It really does.
Yeah. And I think it says a lot for the quality of the filmmaking, the quality of the writing, that you buy it. Like, that could be a really cheesy throwback very easily. But the moment that in this film it comes through, it's like, oh shit, and Lorenzo even talks about that in the interview, so you can listen to that a little bit later on. So this is a dangerous question, but were there any aspects of it that didn't work for you? And Jason, you can be the bad man, and then we'll come to you.
I gotta be nasty. Yeah. So I don't have anything that doesn't work for me personally, right? I think so. Yeah, like, we've got the spoiler warning up on screen, don't we? Is that
no? That's just the thing that is just mostly jokes, and to let people know what we're actually doing. Give me a second.
Yeah. No, it's fine. I don't need to be too spoilery, because, like, it is the origin story of Orion Pax and Megatron. We know that they're besties and that they have a falling out. And yes. On the first screening of the film, a lot of people said that they felt that falling out came too quickly and too suddenly, and that it was a very sudden heel turn. And I have been paying attention to that on subsequent viewings of the film, and I know we definitely sort of traded notes of this at the IMAX premiere, and I've been watching it more closely since then. And I feel like there's like maybe four steps to D-16's turn sprinkled throughout the film, and they are there right from the beginning of the film. They're very subtle, which you could well say that maybe, if you have to say something's very subtle, you could well say it's too subtle. Maybe it should have had more of a lantern hung on it. But it's the story being told in the way that they chose to tell it, and there are definitely reasons for D-16 to turn on Orion, and I'm not going to say that he's right or wrong, because that's a decision that this is amazingly deep for a Transformers.
Yeah, movie. I know, right?
Everyone's going to come along to this, and they're going to watch it, and they're going to go, he's 100% correct, or, well, like, he probably should have toned down his reaction and stuff. But, like, it's I think it says a lot that the writing of the film really makes a good case for how D-16 flips over to becoming Megatron, and you can't sort of sit there and just go, I don't think you're allowed to do that or anything. Like, it's a good case, and the signs are there, if you know what to look for. And you might not see it. You might not see them on the first viewing, but they are there.
Yeah. Do you agree with that, Lisamaree?
I do agree with that. I am one of those people who does think that the change happens a little too quickly. I guess more so towards the end of the film. But I knew you could see the fall of D-16 and that Megatron starting to come through, and I love the way that they do take those steps. And Jason's right, it definitely, if you watch it closely enough, you will see the steps. I've only watched it once, and I saw the steps happening. For me, the one thing, I guess, I think the film potentially gave us too many. How do I put this without being spoilerish? Too many tempting pathways for additional movies to occur. And maybe later on we can look at that a bit further if we do go spoilerish. The other thing is, I guess I have a little bit of a hard time initially before the film came out with the idea of Bumblebee being there at the beginning, because I guess I've always grown up with Bumblebee being one of the younger Transformers.
Only
having
under 3 million or 4 million or whatever it is.
But having said that, he works in the film, so he was at probably a really nice surprise for me that he fitted in to the film so well, and that they'd written him in such a way that I know he's the comic relief in this one, but it worked for me. So
and also that's not his real name, right? You know his real name.
Badassatron. I've gotten really good at doing that over the last few months.
Yeah, when the first trailer came out with that in it, I was like, oh god, that's cringe. And this was the thing. Like the first trailer that we all saw, I think a lot of people were like, oh no, we're in trouble here. The marketing of the film was a bit weird when it came to the first trailer, but I feel like they actually knew what they were doing. Like they wanted to appeal to a certain crowd. My nephew watched that first trailer where we all looked at it and went, "Oh, it's cringe." And my nephew looked at it and just went, "That's awesome," and I want to watch it. So it doesn't necessarily play that well with the older crowd, but we're going to go see it anyway. So it doesn't have to. And then they released the second trailer, which is very much what we just saw before, and I think that's a very different film that we're seeing there. And I mean, if you've seen it, I think a bunch of people are probably like, oh, geez, there's a lot of the film in that second trailer. I think there's not to do this, and I'm sorry, but I think there is actually still more than meets the eye, though.
Very nice. I see what you've done there. Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, upon second viewing, I was like you, Lisa. I was like, oh, I thought the turn was too fast. I didn't buy it. Like, he's gone from being a really nice guy to, really just losing his shit entirely. And then the second time around, I actually said, so after the interview with Josh and Lorenzo, they asked after the cameras had stopped rolling, and I said, "What?" I said, "Thank you. I love the film. Really, it's great." And they said, "What did you love the second time that you watched it?" I said, "I'd watched it twice." I said, "The Megatron's arc," and he's like, "Yes, good, you get it." I could see more where things are being placed before it, and you can see the things that make him really, change his opinion of the world. And what we're actually seeing is somebody losing their faith.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a really powerful thing for a person to do, because the two are at opposite ends. Optimus has always had faith and that something is going to get him to where he needs to be, and he's finding more and more questioning, because he's like, oh, am I good enough for this? Whereas Megatron is losing his faith and having to find a whole new way. So yeah, there's some really good stuff in there, and I love that I'm pulling this kind of stuff out of a Transformers film.
I was just going to say again, we're talking about a Transformers film, and we're talking about deep character motivations and loss of faith as a motivator for someone to become the worst villain of all time. And I really think it's a credit to the cast, the cast and the crew, that we care so deeply about the characters in this film. This could have just been a throwaway feature, but instead it is a love letter to Transformers fans, and it is something different than I think most non-Transformers fans expected to see. I don't think people expected to see I haven't checked today. I don't think people expected to see a Transformers film with 90% a 90% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and like we can all look at that and just go like, we don't care, but we know that it matters to some people, and that's going to be a deciding factor in getting some people into the cinema to go and see it. And make no mistake, I want to see a Transformers 2. I definitely want to see a Transformers 2, and the box office performance of this movie, I'm quite invested in how well this movie does at the box office, because I think they've done such a good job on producing the film and writing and making it so believable, and doing such a great job on personifying these characters. And I want to see it continue. I want to see it go on.
Absolutely.
I want to see a sequel as well. But is it going to be Transformers 2, or is it going to be Transformers 1, 2?
It's going to be Transformers Too Fast, Too Furious.
I'm hoping that it may actually be like Transformers 1A dot final, no dot really dot final.
Well, have you been looking at my hard drive? That's how
100%. But or occasionally Transformers to Turbo Hyper Fighting Dragon Edition.
Absolutely. The world's warrior. Yeah.
Transformers 1+1.
I like that one.
I like that one too. Okay. So we do need to do our ratings. So if you in the chat have seen it, I know some of you have, please drop a number in there. If you can, use the little out of 100 symbol, because it makes it easier for me to see them. And to all of you who are new, every time that people put their rating in the chat, I also include it in the rating on the website. So it is an aggregate of all of our listeners' ratings. So if you really, really want to shit on a film, you can rate it 0 and it completely buggers up the entire process. So please don't do that. Okay, Rob's in with an 80%. There you go. Now, Jason or Lisa, actually, Lisamaree, do you have a numerical rating for me? What percentage of awesome is this?
I'd give it a solid 80 to 85%.
Very nice.
It's an enjoyable ride. I think, it's well targeted at everyone. It's something you do want to go see again, and it's something that we do want to see a sequel for. So there's plenty of opportunity for diverse storyline, and it doesn't need to be on Earth. So absolutely.
Nice. Excellent. Thank you. I'm loving it. There's a whole bunch of new faces that I've never, or new names in the chat that I have never seen before. And I'm like, yes, sweet. Excellent. I love new numbers. Nathan Ashby with 85%, Lutze with 85%, and Stronith with 95%, going in hot, and I like it. Fantastic. And Jason, do you have a number?
I do.
Excellent.
So the number that I put down prior to recording is 85. So I seem to have pitched it right down the middle of the middle of where the chat's going.
Yeah, you're right in the middle. Both of you are. I mean, Lisamaree, you also said 85, or you said 80 to 85. Do you have a particular number?
I'd probably go stronger towards the 85.
85 it is.
Yeah.
I would like to know what your number is, Quinny.
Mine's actually a little higher. After the first viewing, I was on a high, and I was like, we'd had a great night, and I was really excited about it. And I was like, oh, that's a 95 kind of movie. And I'm like, yeah, it was amazing. Second time round, I dropped it down a little bit because I did have moments where I thought, that joke didn't land as well. Or, and there was some humor that I was like, maybe doesn't play 100% right. But I am also reminded that this is a shockingly well-made, but also surprisingly meaningful and heartfelt film. And if a film tugs at my heartstrings, I'm like, shit, yeah, I'm in. So for me, it's a 91. Like I was right into it. I really enjoyed it, and to say I want a sequel is, the barest minimum. I'm super keen, but also something you said, Jace, that I really am intrigued by. I would like to see this take on the Transformers story expanded in somewhere else. I'd like to see an animated series of it, or I want this version or this timeline, part of the timeline, to be explored more. And
it opens itself up to do that, absolutely, by targeting it where it is. I'd actually like to see the story of Steve.
It's funny you should say that.
It is actually funny because Steve delivers the biggest MacGuffin of the film.
Yeah, absolutely. Where would we be without Steve?
Question about how that came to be. So fair enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, thank you so much to the chat. You've all dropped some numbers in there. I do like the idea that the next one will just be called Transformers G2, which will just confuse everybody as to why it's suddenly neon and orange and purple. And everyone's like, what the hell happened to the color palette of this movie? But so what we're going to do now, we do have a clip, but for the exigencies of time, we're going to have a look at the interview that we recorded with Josh Cooley, the director, and Lorenzo di Bonaventura. It is with me, so my apologies. You get to see more of my face, and it is just a lot of me talking. But there are two very interesting people that I am talking to. And afterwards, we're going to come back, and we might have a little bit more of a spoilery chat afterwards. Yeah. We haven't been doing this for a while. We've been basically non-spoiler for this show. But after this, I think we're in pretty safe territory to come back and talk spoilers. Y'all ready for this?
Let's roll.
The surface.
It's beautiful.
You have proven yourself worthy. Take these and access your full potential.
It's time to show them we are more than meets the eye.
We're here talking with Josh Cooley and Lorenzo di Bonaventura, the director and the producer of Transformers One. Now, very excited to meet you guys. And just between you, me, the four walls, Transformers 2. Like that's like I've seen the film. That's all I want to know. Where are we at with Transformers?
Well, you really got into it.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to hold back. Just where are we at?
We're excited. We have some ideas. We've spent all our time trying to make this one good.
Congratulations.
And now we have a moment to sort of appreciate it. And one of the things that we've done traditionally on Transformers, which we've benefited from, is we've never started the next film without seeing how the audience responded to the film before. And so I think that's very different than how a lot of people will work on series like this. And so we can ingest the audience reaction, where we really succeeded, where a new opportunity lies, and then also hearing from people's enthusiasm about what it is that made them do it, so that when we go to that next movie, we might go harder in that direction because of the audience going, oh, God, we loved it. Because you make these movies for the audience.
absolutely.
And you're excited. You're wanting to move on, tell another story.
I love Optimus Prime and Megatron. I know, right? So, and there's obviously more story to tell. So
there is, and actually that brings me to the next question. So there's so many different stories about them. If you dig into the comics, the games, or whatever, there are multiple different histories or versions of stories. Sometimes Megatron is a gladiator. Sometimes Optimus Prime is a librarian. How do you guys make the choice as to what version of the story that you're going to bring to the screen?
We looked at all those versions and saw, Hasbro's obviously a partner in this, and so we were able to access everything, which was great. And we decided what was the right thing for this story, and the amount of time we had to tell it. There's natural limitations, which is helpful. Otherwise, it could just kind of get off the rails. But we made the decisions based on what's right to tell the story and what's right for their relationship between these two characters. And starting out as friends, going to enemies, a very simple arc, but really a strong one. And it was what's the best way to start them off on the right foot.
And it is a really good sort of relatable arc, I think. You see, actually, towards the end, there is a beautiful scene where you kind of see where they started. And last viewing of it, I actually realized that really hit me quite badly emotionally, because you've seen how badly they've fallen. Like how completely...
What's been lost.
Yeah. And that's something that we haven't necessarily seen before. In all the different versions, it's always been them at each other's throats. It's a really lovely thing seeing you build those characters. So in terms of the writing, the building of the characters, where do you start?
Well, it's a great question, because it's also what got me into this film from the get-go is we've always seen them as enemies. Can we sell them as friends from the very beginning? And can we make that believable relationship right immediately so that the audience is like, oh, I love seeing them together, with the knowledge, knowing that it's going to fall apart, it won't last. But that was the exciting thing. Also, probably the biggest challenge of the film is just making that sell that.
Calibration of that is very tricky. It's there's no one straw that breaks the camel's back. It's as you were saying, it's an evolution. So it's a gradual dawning that these two are headed in opposite directions.
It's also a very human story. Like you say, it's very relatable, and that yes, they're robots or transformers, but we can tell a very human story in this case.
It's interesting because it's quite a film of two distinct halves. And I would say that there is a tonal shift, kind of almost dead in the middle. It affects the characters, it affects the comedy, but it also, I would say it almost affects the way the film looks and moves.
It does, yeah.
Was that a distinct choice to say, okay, we're going to change the style of animation, we're going to change the type of comedy? What was your thinking there?
Yes. I mean, with animation, everything's intentional, because nothing is off the cuff or in the moment. But so you have to think about every single breath that the character makes, every single particle and speck. And so, it was the tone needed to shift, because these characters are going to become enemies. They're going to fight each other. A war is going to break out. And so, having that moment that happens in the middle of the film where they realize everything they thought was the way it was is totally different, that's the beginning of their entire world is going to change, and for the audience as well.
You may even see it transforms.
Oh,
yeah.
Well done.
Thank you. I'll take my check now. The film is absolutely chock-a-block with other characters, and that's something as a fan that really got me excited, like seeing the characters in the background and going, oh, that's that person. I need to know, you're both involved with Transformers, have been for a long time. Who's your favorite weird Transformer?
Weird one?
Yeah, the one that you're like, that is a strange character, and I just love it. That you maybe put in the background.
Well, he's not in the background, but I love Shockwave.
Oh, yeah.
The guy, he's the only character that has one big eye, and he has no emotion. And I love it. Yeah.
In fact, that's I laugh every single time he punches him.
Yeah.
I mean, because that's just something about that line. You hit me in my eye, and you just go like, wait, like, bring that back. It's funny. I was going to say the same character because of that. It's so different. And what's interesting about Transformers is everybody has a favorite, that's different, and for such different reasons. And that's really exciting when you work with something that people identify so strongly with.
Absolutely. I'm a big Cosmos fan. I'm a little let down that he's not there, but that's what Transformers 2 is for. We've got to wrap it up there, unfortunately, but I do have to ask one last question just about a character that I think probably should be treated with a bit more respect and maybe given a spin-off. What do we see the feature of Steve?
That's so great. We love
Transformers
Steve.
2.
We love Steve.
Rise of Steve?
Yeah. Steve must come back.
Steve's origin story.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad you like Steve.
Love Steve.
Yeah.
Beautiful. We're going to wrap it up there.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great.
Steve?
Yeah, he's for it. Oh, Steve! Look, that's Starscream, and you're Shockwave and Soundwave. Enough! Gosh, raise your hand if Wave is in your name. There's a lot of waves.
Steve.
I want a toy of Steve.
Oh, look, I think Steve needs his own toy. I would love for Steve to be one of those ones that's maybe they need to do a Build-A-Figure of Steve, but he never actually
you can tear it apart.
Exactly. His head just never quite fits on the thing. And as Rob said, also.
So you're saying Steve will be a bobblehead?
That would be
great.
Amazing. Yeah. I would be 100% here for bobblehead Steve. Can
I just say, I really enjoyed the interview. I also, as a Transformers fan who has existed on the internet in the last 5 years and seen the massive storm that is created every time Lorenzo's name is mentioned, I thought it was quite refreshing to see Lorenzo just exist in the moment in the interview and not try to make everything canon or not try to claim everything's all part of a big plan, and actually just discuss the movie that's in front of them. And I think part of it is also because they know they're on a winner, so the producer doesn't need to do anything weird. So
yeah. I mean, I have disagreed with him many times in the past where he's talking about, oh no, it all links into the thing. I'm like, you know what? You're allowed to leave the Bayverse behind. You could let Bumblebee be its own thing, whatever. But I think because we're in this particular timeline now, we've left that all behind. We've now got a clean slate, and he doesn't have to do any of that weird stuff. Right. Okay. The spoiler section logo is up, and now, so some people have already decided that they need to duck out because we're talking spoilers. But for a little bit longer, while we've got you both here, let's talk about the film a little bit spoilery. And if you haven't seen it, I do recommend probably saying, bye. Because there are enough things in there that you can be spoiled on some stuff.
Yeah, you can. Look, before I should have actually said this in the non-spoiler part of it as well. But the first takeaway I had from the first screening that I had of this film was that I have never ever seen Cybertron look as gorgeous as it does in this film. It doesn't look like the cold, clinical purple gray monstrosity that we had from the G1 cartoons. It looks lived in. It looks it just looks beautiful. There's this golden sheen to it all as well. And you know what? We're in the spoiler section now, so I'm just going to say it. But Sentinel Prime is absolutely gorgeously built and animated and supremely well voiced by John Hamm as well.
Yeah.
I was thinking a lot today about the vocal performances in the film, and it's really easy to just go Hemsworth and Henry are great, and they are. And I think there was a comment made in the chat during the preview about how Henry's the one who sold Megatron, from top to bottom sold his descent, and that's absolutely true. But I also think that there's other vocal performances that we kind of do a disservice by not mentioning as well. Like Steve Buscemi's Starscream is amazing.
See, I'm so glad that you said that, because like the other performances, I was like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, no problems. You know, like Chris Hemsworth. Lisa, I assume you enjoyed Hemsworth.
I didn't mind Hemsworth. I liked that he didn't try to be Peter Cullen.
Absolutely.
It really annoys me when they try and get someone to emulate Peter Cullen. There is only one Peter Cullen. There always will only be one Peter Cullen. So take Optimus in your own direction. And I like that Chris Hemsworth did that. So, but I also loved Starscream. I thought that he was awesome.
I was gobsmacked at how good Steve Buscemi was in that role. Like, I could hear it was Steve Buscemi, but at the same time, I was like, shit, it's like he was born to play Starscream.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
there are people who in the community who are annoyed that particular fan favorite voice actors didn't get cast as particular voices that they in the film. But I think it also, I'm actually surprised we haven't said this before in this episode tonight. But Transformers is a franchise that reinvents itself every 3 to 5 years, and everyone can have a go and make a new role their own. And Buscemi definitely does that with Starscream. The one that I wanted to point out of all of this is, and I'll come back to him, like John Hamm as Sentinel. He's like an annoying, precocious teenager. The way that he reacts to things that are happening, he's like, nah, that's not what's going to happen. You know, oh my god, you're so annoying. You know, I told you that this was going to happen and stuff. And his performance it feels really effortless. The way that it slips onto Sentinel Prime that way. So,
but also
the voice actor makes him.
He is supremely, wonderfully dislikable.
He is, and since we're in the spoiler territory, yeah. The part of this that really stuck with me after the first screening of this movie. It was not necessarily like, you know, Megatron's descent or anything, but it was the scale and the depth of what Sentinel Prime has done to Cybertron. It's phenomenal. He's created a worker cast of cogless Transformers over 50 cycles, and like we know that a cycle is kind of a year, like it's shorthand for that, but maybe it's longer in Cybertron speak. But like we're talking generations of Transformers that have been kept underfoot, and this is a Cybertron that has been lied to, all for almost as long as some of these bots have been online. Like we know that the miners came online and didn't have transformation cogs because Sentinel took them, which means there's been a whole bunch of new bots that have come online, and they've all been lied to. And on that scale alone, like we talked about Megatron's loss of faith earlier, like D-16 starts the film saying such wonderful things about Sentinel Prime. He's so charismatic. He's looking out for all of us. He's great. He's the greatest Transformer.
It's straight up hero worship.
Absolutely. And by the end of the film, knowing what he's done, it is no wonder. It is no wonder that Megatron's reaction to it is to tear it all down.
Well,
it sort of leaves the question as to what you do after you tear it all down, because the city, you're going to destroy the city that you've lived in. But yeah, like what do you do? What do you do after that?
Well, I know you want to say something, Lisa. I just know that the interesting thing about that whole thing is that Megatron, as a D-16, his core defining characteristic is hero worship. Like the two characters that he really gets into are Megatronus, the biggest and strongest of the primes, and Sentinel. So he's based his entire being around looking up to people and hero worshipping people who are stronger and people who are, seen to be powerful and good. And so that to me is the thing that made me go, oh, actually, I understand his fall now. Because when everything that you know is pulled away from you and you lose your faith, that's when you start realizing, okay, I need to be my own savior now. And that's where he goes to at the end of the film. Now, sorry, Lisamaree, what were you going to say?
No, I was going to agree with everything, you know, and the fact that he crashes so hard in that as towards the end, you know, and I guess I can spoiler now, right?
Absolutely.
I loved the fact that his eye color indicated where he was going. I loved it.
I love the motion blur that was on his red eyes in the final fight. Like I actually didn't realize, but we saw a similar motion blur on Alpha Trion when he took out the lackeys in the cave, and just that shining red light coming from his eyes as he was fighting in the final fight. I was just sitting there looking at it in the cinema, just going, my God, it's an amazing decision to do that kind of thing. And it's the sort of thing. It's just like, oh yeah, make his eyes glow and, you know, make the motion blur thing happen. It's like it affects you so badly.
Yeah, just those little subtle pieces to show his fall, you know. And I really like the idea that it is, you know, that loss of faith, you know, the heartbreak that you feel for him before he, you know, turns into the iconic character that we all know, love, hate, however you see Megatron. I like Megatron. I feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
And this made me feel even more sorry for him, the absolute loss that comes with it.
And interestingly, now that we've seen what Sentinel did, and as you said, Jace, you know, he quite literally is, you know, maiming children. He is hobbling children to turn them into a slave race. Like when you think about it in the terms of what he's doing to people, you know, you're essentially doing something horrific, and that to, you know, it's like your biggest hero suddenly being worse than Hitler. You know, it's a big thing. So I really enjoyed that. There were a lot of other elements that I loved. I loved seeing a lot more of the history. I love them talking about the Quintesson War and just going, that's just a thing that's mentioned in passing, you know? And I want to see more of that. I would love to see more of the primes doing what they did. I would love to see like another story where we actually find out more about Alpha Trion and all of the other primes.
And on that, a call out to Lawrence Fishburne too, because that was really, he made a really good Alpha Trion.
He really did. As you were saying, Quinny, like I think there's extra story to tell. Like we've gone so far back to the beginning that we could go further back still and, you know, get stories of the primes, you know. And the comment that you just put up there from SS Tronus about the flora and fauna of Cybertron, I found that really interesting. And I found once they got to the surface of the planet, I thought it was a really interesting blend of techno and organic. And the characters even called it out. They said, "What is this stuff that we're walking over? Like we haven't seen this before." And so I think that stuff's going to become more important for future installments of this. Otherwise, like, why would the characters even mention it? But
it's a bit of a callback to the Beast Wars or Beast Machines.
Beast Machines, yeah,
it is.
So I liked that subtlety in there.
Yeah, and I like the fact that the planet is not 100% made of metal, right? Like, I think if you have a planet that is, you know, 100% metallic, you have questions about, you know, how it's formed, what's at the core, and things like that. So I think a bit of organic material in there also, I think helps sell the realism of it. There's also there's an ecosystem on the surface with the I guess the or whatever we want to
Yeah.
call them. But they were
Do
really,
they have an
were really
official
cool.
name yet?
I don't know, but
don't
I'm
know.
really looking forward to the studio series one.
Yeah, you know
I don't know
happen,
what it
right?
transforms into, but I'm really keen for it. Yeah, I also love that even right from the start, they're like, yes, so Cybertron is Primus, and here is his toy accurate model.
Yeah,
I was like, wow,
that was great.
holy shit, we've gone for the actual transforming model of Primus. Amazing. Yeah,
It was great. I've got that Primus as well.
I kind of want that Primus. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah.
Kind of want it. And yeah, there's a part of me that thought, did we need to have the full transformation into Optimus Prime in this movie? Because one thing that I found interesting is that you actually get multiple transformations for the characters as the film goes on.
You do, yeah. They do.
Yep.
From Cogless to the Orion Pax with Cog to finally Optimus Prime and Megatron. And I love how Megatron gets that by taking Megatronus's Cog.
Megatronus.
Yeah.
Which
I thought that
makes
was a
so much
really
sense.
nice callback. But I guess, they did fall for the trope, the religious trope with the rise of Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
They kind of do. Like, it's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
It is a bit funny though, because we mentioned the childhood trauma of the 86 film, and the 86 film is the first time they've killed Optimus Prime, but now they've killed him in every single version of the franchise ever since. And so you can't do Transformers 1 without basically killing Orion Pax. So like, why not? Yeah.
It's like the Spider-Man movies. You just have to do the fucking spider bite in every single movie.
Well, you could say that dying is Optimus's canon event, right?
It really is. It
Wow.
really is.
Optimus Prime,
guess-
born to die.
Yeah.
I guess the one thing at the very end of the film, I would have liked to see the Decepticons and Optimus and the miners kind of stay together for longer. I really was hoping they wouldn't go their separate ways just quite
Same.
yet.
I mean, I
I would have liked to have seen interaction.
Yeah, I think it would have been nice to have had a détente where they kind of just say, okay, we don't like each other, but we both have to live on this planet, and we're gonna you do your thing, I'll do my thing. And then we've got a perfect setup for Transformers 2 where we can see them falling apart more and more, and maybe what the war was actually over. Because to me, the falling out between Optimus and Megatron, to me, isn't enough for a war.
So that's the thing. By the end of this movie, they're not at war.
No.
There is no war. They've just been banished, and so the onset of the war is a bit more fertile ground for them to explore in future installments.
Yeah. Rob makes an interesting point that the Matrix gave a very magical, happy ending, and suddenly everybody gets cogs and the energon flows. But I think, there's enough opportunities there for a sequel to say, if Megatron and his faction of now Decepticons wants access to the God, what's it stuff? The Energon. Thank you.
Energon.
Thank you. God.
The plot device.
I'm a fake fan.
If they want access to the plot device, then
if they want
what are they
access to
gonna
the
do?
MacGuffin device, what are they going to do? And there's a lot that we haven't seen. Like, there are other cities. So far we've really only seen Iacon.
Well, that was a question that someone asked in the chat room earlier. Like, are we going to see other cities where there's similar slave trade sort of developed? But I don't know. Like, we don't really know the size of Cybertron. Like, we've seen that Iacon is quite expansive below the surface, and part of me thinks that the the Transformers lost the war against the Quintessons and so went underground. And I think Icon's it. I think Icon's the only city on this planet, perhaps.
You're talking the Matrix here now.
Am I?
Yeah, like the Matrix movie. What happens in that?
Yeah, right.
Keanu
No,
Reeves.
you're right. Yes, the
Right,
other Matrix,
right.
the lesser Matrix. Yes.
Yes,
right.
yes.
The other one with Lawrence Fishburne in it.
Yeah. But
The other one where Lawrence Fishburne sets everyone on the path to righteousness. Yes.
And maybe there's something in that. I mean, there's so many Easter eggs underlying a lot of this storyline that I wouldn't put it past them that, you know, they chose Lawrence Fishburne purposely because of the story they'd written. Maybe you just never know.
I enjoyed when Alphatron gave them all the red pill. It was it was good. Yeah, do you know what? There was actually I'm going to name whose review I saw it in. Kelvin Chan made a really good point in his review, which kind of skipped us all by, which is that Alphatron has been offline for 50 years and then comes back online and tells everyone how bad Sentinel Prime is and what he's been doing. How does he know?
Shh.
Yeah, I know. Yes.
Yeah,
I know.
Okay. We are going to have to wrap it up there. We have been going for longer than we normally do, and I honestly could keep talking about this for many more hours. But we have come to the end of our time. So thank you so much, Jason, and thank you, Lisamaree, for joining us. You have been magnificent.
It's been wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for having us. It's been fun.
Excellent. And when Transformers 2 rolls around, I'm sure that we will be back in touch very, very shortly.
Bonus points, by the way, for just getting straight to it in the interview with the boys and just going Transformers 2 now. When
are we doing this now? Come on. Mm-hmm. And you can see them going, "Oh shit!"
Also, he's a live one.
Yeah.
Also, like when we were at the IMAX premiere, we had the privilege of sharing the room with some of the ILM animators who worked on the film, and we shouted at them that we wanted Transformers 2 after the credits finished rolling, and they said they're waiting for the call. So yeah,
it's going to be a wonderful time, and we will look forward to it.
It's going to happen.
Absolutely,
it's definitely going to happen. We've got school holidays. You know, this is going to happen.
Go and watch it right now. Actually, on Thursday when you can. Thank you, everybody. And we'll head to a clip and we'll say thank you and good night.
I want to live in a world full of heroes, not sit here counting zeros in a cubicle downtown. I want to look out my window, see them flying, and swing across the horizon as I cheer them on so proud. Deep-powered girl keep staring at her face, and call Colossus and have them teach me ways to learn exercise. I'd be one of the guys. Martial arts from iron fists and walls, call Dazzler up and teach her all my songs.